and McDonald's on 1019, 100.5, 1450, WGNSSports.com, and BigGTV.
The Coachy Show is brought to you by Dan Friends Concrete, a licensed and insured residential and commercial concrete construction contractor serving Middle Tennessee. That's Dan Friends Concrete. And we are joined this morning by Riverdale head coach Will Kriesky. Good morning, Coach. Coming off a big 31-13 win over Smyrna.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a battle. We preached to our kids all week, how physical this game was going to be, and it was. It lived up to every bit of it, and physical is 10-10 and a half. And the kids came out and played hard. We made some mistakes early on, but I thought overall as a complete game, I thought our offense played its best game. Defensively, we didn't play as good as we had in the past. Now we were out some guys. Aiden Emmons didn't play due to a shoulder issue, and Jeremy Thompson played a little sparingly. He's had an ankle injury, so we are a little beat up, but that's everybody. I know Smyrna was beat up, and they had some guys out also, and but Smyrna knows us. Matt Williams did a great job when they weren't in our region, keeping our game going, and Riverdale and Smyrna is a traditional rivalry game. And that's what we always tell the kids. We're going to get Smyrna's best every time we play them. And, Matt Williams has been there for many years, and what he does is he those kids are physical, and they're really good up front always.
Yeah, it is. It's a game the community looks forward to, both communities, and it is a big rivalry. Some of the past games with Sunny Great, Smyrna, and some of the great teams Riverdale had, and it was another good crowd Thursday night.
Yeah, it was a great crowd, for a Thursday night game, and going into fall break, it was a really good crowd, and everybody was, and like I said, they got to see a good game. 10-10 at half, both teams were battling and fighting, and it was big for playoff implications, and that was we preached to the kids, man. We're not in the playoffs yet, and we got three tough region games left, and so we really needed to get that one under our belt, and I was really proud on a short week. We didn't have our best practices of the year. I don't know if that was coming off a homecoming and just the short week and just a bunch of different things going on. But the kids came, and I was really impressed how they battled in the second half. And the defense struggled a little bit in the first half, but then they came out and played in the second half, and our guys were able to do some really good things, and we were able to finish the game. And that's what I was most proud of, is just seeing how our kids finished and fight all the way to the end, to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. We're getting ready for playoff time, and with that win, now you're 5-2 overall. Now 3-1 in region play. It kind of gets you a good little separation from some of these teams. And I know you got 3 good weeks left to go in the season, and I know that's got to be right around the corner. What you're thinking about?
Yeah, you always got to, with the 18 region that we're in, all of these region games are really important. And just one game can mess it all up, and that's what I keep telling the kids, man. You got to stay focused, and I told the kids even back when playing Blackman, the playoffs have started. It's playoffs started just because so many teams in the region and so many teams are close. I mean, this region is tough from top to bottom.
Yeah, it really is. I think Brian said on our game the other night that it's kind of like the SEC of 6A. I mean, it's just so many good teams, and to make the playoffs, that's a big deal. But I'm going to highlight one of our SRM Concrete Solid Performer of the Week, locally grown, nationally known SRM Concrete. I want to talk about Gavin Hampton. He was 16 of 20 for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns, and really led your offense Thursday night.
Yeah, Gavin's doing a great job. He's starting to come in on his own, starting to figure some things out, and he's playing well, and the receivers are meshing well, and I thought they did a good job. He did a great job in the pocket, and then extending some plays with his legs and moving the ball around. And there's just not one receiver that he throws. He gets the ball to all. He distributes to all of them. They do a good job. He does a good job with that, and finding the open receiver, and then the receivers catching the ball and making really good plays. I was really impressed with Braylon Burns. He struggled a little bit early on in the season, and now he's getting confidence and coming into his own, and he's playing well and doing the things that he's been coached to do.
Yeah, and you were talking about spreading the ball around. Corbin Reynolds also, 5 catches, 126 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You got good receivers, a lot of different weapons, a lot of different things you can do.
Yeah, Corbin's another guy. He's just quiet and just comes to work and does his job. And he's a big physical receiver, and I don't think people realize, he's kind of tough to bring down, and he'll break those tackles and get those extra yards that he needs. And, he always finds the open window. And then, I think the big thing with him is he's really bought into our strength and speed program, and I think that's really showing as the season comes along.
Yeah, and another offensive performer that really stood out, Jacob Vaughn, 13 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown. And, I know you got to have that running game to complement your passing attack.
Yeah, and I stay on him because, I want him to get that 100-yard mark every game, and he gets right there. And, yesterday at school he was getting on to me because he said, well, I didn't get that 100 yards because you took me out, and I did. Chris Peters, another guy that rotates with him, he got a lot of carries toward the end of the game, and he's doing well. And Jaden Jones, another senior, got some carries. So he has two seniors behind him that come in and just play, and they practice hard, and so they deserve those type of carries, and they deserve a chance to get some reps. And I was really proud of those two when they came in and got their number called and did what they were supposed to do.
And so I think it says a lot about your team. Getting up 10-0. All right, Smyrna comes back, ties the game up right going into the half, and that's a point right there where you either got to step up, or it could be a fourth quarter game coming down to the last play and outscore them 21-3 in the second half.
And I really believe just the games we had early on helped us with that. The Knox Catholics, playing those type of teams helps you prepare you for these type of games, and then coming out and playing Blackman early on, and we didn't play our best, but I think our kids learn from those games, and I think that's huge. When you can learn from the games that you lost, it helps you in the future.
Yeah, and I want to, another kid I wanted to highlight here, Miles Weaver, kicker. Perfect. Had a field goal, 3 extra points, and high school football, a kicker is a big deal. Having a good, solid one like that.
Yeah, he's done a good job all year and consistently done well, and I'm proud of what he does. And I told him, he started to go out yesterday when I was about to leave to kick, and I was like, Miles, just rest the leg for the next few days. Like, do not kick. Rest, and then when we get back to work next week, you start kicking again, because I think he's done a good job, like you said. And I don't want him to overuse the leg. I want him to make sure he's ready and fresh, ready to go for the last 3 games, because he's going to be a huge part in those last 3 games.
It really is. And you talked about it going into this break. This is your bye week, which happens to be coincide with fall break. How are you going to attack this week? When are your guys? How many days are you going to give your guys off? When are you going to get back? And how do you attack that?
So we've always last few years. Just give them the first of the week off, and then we'll bring them back in on Thursday morning. So we didn't do anything with them yesterday, so they had yesterday off, and through the weekend, and then through next week, and then on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock they'll come in, and we'll start working on Siegel and getting ready for them, because Siegel, they've played some really good games and beat some really good opponents, and again, they always play us tough. Coach Renshaw does a great job over there, and it's always a battle when we play Siegel, and he has those guys ready, and that's what we told those guys: go relax, refresh, but when we come back, it's back to the grind.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. Your next game is not till October 17th, so you got a week off before you have Siegel coming into y'all's place, and another rivalry game.
Yeah, it's big. It's huge. You don't get a break at all, and they're doing some good things. I know they had a tough loss to Clarksville, and Clarksville's a really good ball club. I know they're Isaac Shelby. He's been at Clarksville High for years, and he's done a good job. But again, Coach Renshaw, those guys are playing really hard, and they've had some really good wins this year. And it's crazy to say this, but it's our last home game, the regular season home game. And this season has really flown by. This unfortunately for us, due to the scheduling conflict, but this year we had 6 home games, and next year will be tough with only 4. So this is the seniors' last official, that we can say on paper that their last game they'll play at Riverdale, and so I want to make it special for them, and I want them to be prepared and ready to go.
We expect you'll have a big crowd out there, and the seniors did a lot for your program.
Yeah, I'm like I talked about Aiden a while ago, and Jaron Hall, like all those seniors. I don't want to start naming too many, I'll forget, but they've all been good, and they've been with us, and they're working hard, and again, they know that what the standard is and what we expect, and so I'm really looking forward to those guys getting refreshed and ready, because we've been going at it since right after the dead period, full go, working, and it's been football nonstop. So I'm hoping they use this time to relax, and so they're ready to come back to work and ready, because I mean, it's here like 3 games and then the playoffs, you know. So we have to make sure we do what we're supposed to do, so we can make the playoffs.
And you know, you mentioned this week playing on Thursday night is a little bit different week. You know, how do y'all attack that? I know it's a day, it's just one day. You wouldn't think it'd be that big a deal, but I mean, I know as well as high school kids, it's just different. And you know, playing on Thursday and then having to come to school on Friday. How did you kind of attack that this week?
Yeah, it is different. We tried to, you try to keep your. I try to keep the same constant schedule. Routine. I'm a routine guy, so we try to do as much routine as possible. Did a little bit extra on Sunday, and then Monday we did a little bit more in practice. Add a couple extra periods to our practice schedule on Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday we did our normal morning practice on Wednesday to keep that same type of practice that we do before games. And it was a little different, and it is tough, but we have to make sure we're very prepared because unfortunately, the Oakland game, the TWSAA put that on a Thursday night this year. So hopefully we learned from our mistakes what we did and didn't do right this week to make sure we're prepared when we have to play Oakland on Thursday night.
That's right. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you're going to have another Thursday night game, and I guess you just learn every time that you get to do that. That just helps you.
Yeah, you try to learn from, you always try to learn and grow and make sure you're doing the right things to help your kids, and you want to make sure they're prepared and ready to go. And I thought, again, with playing Thursday night and playing Smyrna and playing a well-coached team, the one group we hadn't really talked about a whole lot is our offensive line. And I bragged on them to the team Friday after the game. That's a group we've been really tough on and hard on, and I was really proud of how they played up front. Those 5 guys are coming together, with Dakari King and Eli Clark and, Judd. We got Alex Judd, a sophomore playing up front. He's doing real. Avante Morrison, he's doing great. And he's flying around, and I've really been proud of him. And, EJ's kind of thrown in at right tackle, once Shelburne got hurt. And, speaking of LeBron Shelburne, he had a torn ACL, and he had his surgery Thursday, and everything went well. And our prayers to him and his recovery, and we're glad he's doing well. He's been missed because he was our leader on the offensive side. And EJ again has stepped in and filled his shoes and finally starting to get comfortable in his role. And again, I can't brag enough about those guys and their improvement. And they've had some really, really tough practices, but they've handled it well. And that's good for our team to see and younger guys to see how they handle those tough practices.
Well, that's good, Coach, and we appreciate it. We wish you good luck and have a good little break here and get back at it against Siegel on the 17th.
Well, I appreciate it, and I thank you everything y'all do, and I appreciate you having my back out there for this morning and not letting Floyd and those guys pick on me too much. John, we
gotta have you back. We got your back.
John's not my favorite right now.
We appreciate it. That was Riverdale head coach Will Kriesky. The Coaches Show is brought to you by Dan Friends Concrete, a licensed and insured residential and commercial concrete construction contractor serving Middle Tennessee. That's Dan Friends Concrete.